I used to know a Russian sound engineer.
Do what?
I said I used to know a Russian sound engineer
Yeah.
and a Czech one too. A Czech one too. I thought it was hilarious. Well, we're here today with Russ Francis, also known as WoreOut. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Russ Francis, a little town called Newport, Arkansas. Actually outside of it, probably 7-8 miles.
Is that northeast Arkansas?
Northeast Arkansas, yes sir.
Okay. Now, were you raised and born? Were you born there and raised there?
I was born in a little town on the west side of Arkansas called Boonville, out on Highway 10.
Okay. What was your first time in a semi truck?
Can't say, I was pretty small. Yeah, I was raised in it.
Did your dad drive trucks?
Yep, owned and drove.
What did he haul?
Cattle, reefers, coal, logs, whatever he had to get by.
What did your mother do for a living?
She is a homemaker.
Okay. How many brothers and sisters you got?
I got 3 sisters and 2 brothers.
Okay. So family of 7.
Yep.
And trucking pretty much supported it all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What was your first time driving a semi truck?
Probably coming out of the field, back to the shop. Pretty young guy, probably 15, 14, 15, something
Was
like
that
that.
hauling grain or corn or?
Yeah, pulling
Okay.
grain.
So did your father farm as well?
No, my grandparents did.
Okay. I'll say your dad did the trucking operation for his parents.
Yep.
Okay. So you would have been employed to pull a couple of loads for harvest, fairly young.
Yep.
What was the first truck you drove?
It would be an 82, 359, 15-speed, 3408, V8 cat, twin turbos. Pretty neat little truck.
Okay. Was that your father's truck or one
Yes,
that he
sir.
owned? Oh, it was father's truck. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I learned to pull them in and out of the shop, I don't know. That's kind of where I learned how to back and, get around tight quarters was from a young age, pulling them in and out of the shop.
Pulling in and out of the shop and maneuvering them around. Did you finish school?
Yes, sir. Yep. No college, but did finish high school.
What was your plans before you left school? What was your plans on a career?
Not trucking, really. I wasn't sure. Dad wanted me to go to college. I was a smart kid. And I don't know. I joined the Army, for the GI Bill and the college money. And anyway, I come home and couldn't go to college because I'd never registered with selective service. And I couldn't register with selective service because I had been in the military.
Okay.
The lady at the college said I was going to have to contact my representative. Of course, I joined the Army on my 17th birthday.
All right.
And honorable discharge.
What year were you born?
1973.
73, okay.
And at any rate, I just threw my hands up and said, to hell with it, I'll go to work.
And that was trucking.
Yep.
Okay. So what was the path for trucking? Did you drive your dad's truck, or did you immediately go out and find your own, or drive for somebody? Okay, right off the bat. So how old were you when you got out of the service?
21.
Okay. What was the first truck that you bought?
It was a 88 379. It does that.
It's talking to you.
It does that.
88 379. How much did you pay for it?
$18,000.
Okay.
It was a heap.
Needed a little bit of work.
Yeah, my dad told me, don't you buy that, son, it'll break you, but I didn't listen.
Was Dad right or wrong?
Had he not been there, yeah, it'd have broke me. Yep.
But a lot of support there from him,
Yeah.
or advice at least.
A lot of advice, a lot of, he'd buy something new for his truck he didn't really need and give me his old stuff, you know, stuff like that.
Swap out charge air cooler boots and give you his old ones and.
Tires,
Okay.
you know, stuff like that. Yep, I wouldn't have made it without him, that's for sure.
And had you started a family at that stage?
Yes. Yeah, I got married at, Justin was born when I was 20. He's my first. Me and Teresa got married when I was 23.
Okay. So immediately there was mouths to feed.
Immediate, yes, sir.
And you were the man to do it.
That's what they say.
What does your wife do?
She works in the legal system.
Okay. That's got to come in handy, perhaps, on the odd occasion, at least knowing the format of the law and the correct paths to follow.
Yeah, she's bailed me out of trouble a few times.
Okay. That's interesting. Somebody in the legal profession married to a truck driver.
Yeah, it helps.
But oftentimes our wives are a bit smarter than us. So there was no previous career to trucking.
No, now I have took a break. I've lost my license a few times. You know, pulled wrenches, stuff like that. I'm pretty handy at whatever you want to do.
You do most of your own, if not all of your own motor work, don't you?
Yeah. There's a little one-bay shop down there around home that does most of the work.
But do you do most of the wrenching on, or you pay somebody else to fix?
I'm not much on letting anybody work on it. No.
Okay. From bad experiences of people that think they know what they're doing and don't quite, or?
Well, that, and you know, every dollar I save is a dollar I sort of earn or don't have to make.
That's true.
You
With
know.
shop labour rates at $100 to $175 an hour, depending on where you are in the country.
And I've got all the tools and, you know, everything it takes to do it, keep it running.
How many years did you wrench for if you weren't driving?
Off and on, probably from 97 or 8 till 2012 or 13.
Okay. On and off, just in between. What year is your truck?
1990.
1990 Peterbilt 379.
Yep.
And what engine are we looking at here?
3406B Caterpillar.
So that's a mechanical engine without an ECM?
Yes, sir. It was a factory 460 horsepower peak, and peak parts got hard to find, you know. They were pretty troublesome too, so we put a manual pump on it.
Okay.
It's got quite a few industrial parts in it. You know, it's got some steel top pistons and industrial nozzles. I've worked on the pump a little bit here and there. Put some non-cat parts in it. She'll do her part.
Okay. What's the difference between driving an electronically controlled engine to a mechanical? Is it something that anybody can jump into and drive, or what's the major differences?
The throttle response, really. The mechanical's pretty well instant. That said, an electronic engine is much more accurate, more efficient. You can make more horsepower out of it. You know, I don't know. That truck come with a mechanical, and that's just kind of where we're at.
Okay. What trailer do you pull?
I pull a 2019 53-foot Wilson Silver Star cattle pot.
Cattle pot. All right. Why do they call it a cattle pot? What's the different names for bull hauling trailers?
Bull rack, cow wagon,
Cheese grater?
cheese grater. I guess it's a cattle pot because, you know, it's got the possum belly. You know, it's kind of low slung.
What's a possum belly?
Like a double drop deck,
Okay.
you know.
So the belly of the trailer actually sits fairly low to the ground. What's
Yes.
the clearance from the road?
Something like 16 or 18 inches, I think.
Okay, so you kind of have to look out for low clearance, like railroad
Yeah.
crossings and...
Yeah, you got to be a little bit careful. Not bad, but somewhat.
Okay. How are the trailers set up? Is there a top deck and a bottom deck?
Yes, sir. It's 2 level.
Okay.
You run them into the back, over the top, load your bottom nose first. If you're going to load your top nose, then you load it next.
So wait a minute, slow down here. So you load them in the back, they go up a ramp to the top,
Yep.
and then down a ramp into the nose.
Yes, sir.
All right.
And then if you're going to load your top nose, depending on how big they are and how many you've got, then you'll load your top nose. And then your jail.
So you lift the ramp, and then the cattle are going into the top.
Right, the cattle actually stand on the ramp when it's in the up position on the top floor.
Okay.
Then you'll load your jail, which is above the tail.
The jail is above the tail.
Yep.
All right.
You'll run them into the front, shut the back door,
Yep.
walk up in that corner and turn them. And of course, you've got your jail door open, and they'll just immediately run in it
Okay, and then
because
close.
they can't get out, you know, back down the ramp.
Right.
Then
Okay.
you close your jail, then you load your top. If they're 5 or less, you know, I always gate them for sure. 6 and up, I won't gate them.
What do you mean gate?
Throw your center cut gate in the top.
Center cut gate.
Yeah, your top middle is the longest part of the trailer, and bottom middle, of course.
Yep.
And they'll have center cut gates.
Oh, so gates that you can swing to
Yeah.
close. All right. So how many swinging doors and ramps have we got in one trailer? You said.
Well, you've got your counterbalance, then you've got your top nose, your jail, your middle cut gate on the top and bottom, and then you've got your door at the top rear of the middle.
About 6 operating gates on the inside. So those trailers would have to be. They gotta stay square
Yes,
for
sir.
everything to operate. And I guess there's some. I guess you got to keep them clean to be able to operate
Yeah,
latches.
I wash mine out once a week, whether
Okay.
it needs it or not, sometimes more. If you don't wash them out regular, it's pretty hard on your floor. A lot of the feed products they have nowadays get pretty acidic. And,
Okay, and it's an aluminum trailer,
Yes, sir.
so that'll start to corrode and eat.
And of course, when your diamond tread gets wore out, you know, you got what we call cleat it, which is take little square aluminum and weld it across the floor.
So there's some grip for the hooves.
And that makes it a bitch to wash out. Doo-doo won't flow across square bars.
Right. We could make lots of references to toilet paper here, but I kind of get the picture.
Yep.
Do you wash the trailer out, or do you pay?
Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of self-washouts out west. They're a lot cheaper. A lot of times I do it not for money, but to save time. I don't like using recycled water to wash it. It'll dull it, make it look bad.
Okay. Oh, so you can't just pull into a Blue Beacon anywhere in the country and they'll
No.
wash out. You have to go to a cattle washout. I'm sure they have EPA regulations and
Yeah,
rules.
they got to have a retention pond and a liner in it. And the best I know, they pay trucks, like pump trucks, to come pump it out and I guess take it.
Spread it on fields for fertilizer, or
Probably so.
okay. How much is it for a washout?
Somewhere, depending on where you're at, it can be anywhere from $90 to $175.
Okay, well, yeah, that is kind of expensive just for one trailer washout. Does your company pay for it, or you pay for it yourself?
No, we pay for it.
Okay.
Yep.
Is it hard finding cattle washouts, or are they kind of grouped around where sale barns and yards are? Like, for instance, here in Sarcoxie with the Joplin Regional sale barn, is there one close to in this area?
Not that I know of. couple of people have tried, but the EPA shuts them down pretty quick.
If they're not doing
There's
it.
one at Seymour, Missouri, T&C.
Okay.
It's really good. Family-owned deal. Those people try really hard. Offer showers. Lady there will cook breakfast for you in the morning.
I'll take care of the drivers.
Yep, they're good people.
Okay. How long do you typically have to wait in line for a trailer washout?
I have been there 8 hours, and I have backed right in.
Wow. Okay. Just depends on the local demand. How long does it take to wash out a trailer?
If they know what they're doing, 45 minutes.
Okay, that's still fairly extensive. Is that one guy in there or two or three
Usually
guys?
one.
Okay.
Yep. Out at Dodge, it goes pretty quick. They've got 4 bays. They can get you through there pretty quick. All down there at Hereford at I can't even remember the name of it now. I go down there quite a bit. At the Triangles, they do really good. Get you in and out.
I got a question about way stations. I learned something talking to you the other month. Is when I started driving, it was always you must go into these way stations when they're open. But after some, I knew nothing about bull hauling until I talked to you, and I would always go into the way stations. But apparently, it's a little bit different when you're hauling cattle. Can you give us some explanation of how cattle haulers deal with way stations? Do you ever have like a 15,000 pound load, or are you loaded to the max all the time?
95% of the time, you're going to have 50,000 net, which puts you, if you're washed out when you load, you can have up to 3,000 pounds of waste left in the trailer between loads.
Oh, really? Okay, so that's got to add up.
That adds up pretty quick. So you know what, we're always 85 or so.
What are you plated for, or what are you?
This truck's plated for 90.
Okay.
It's really plated for a little bit different in every state.
And they don't view it as a divisible load if you're a cattle hauler?
Yeah, you're not supposed to be on the interstate anywhere over 80.
But you can be on secondary roads over
Yes,
80.
sir.
Huh, okay.
Right. You know, when it comes to way stations, we do what we have to do to get the job done.
Okay, so there'd be there's some that you just kind of go past, depending on the circumstance?
Some you go past, some you go around. Some sort of have a little agreement with you that don't just run past, we'll come get you, but if you'll just come in here, we'll look the other way when you go across the scale.
Okay, so they more focus on credentials and registration paperwork, and kind of turn a blind eye to the fact there may be a couple of head on there that's making the load a little bit heavier than what is
they're
legal.
usually pretty good at that.
Okay. Cattle dehydrate in the summer, don't they?
Yes, sir.
So how does that work? Are you paid on the weight of the load or per loaded mile? How does that affect does the farmer lose money if you truck the cattle there and they've gotten hot and dehydrated?
They can. At one time, they paid us on by the hundredweight when we delivered.
Okay.
And in a lot of ways, that was charging us for the shrink and
The shrink would be the cattle
what they lose.
losing water weight.
And nobody really liked that. They wanted to go to a flat per mile rate, just like everyone else in the business. And I didn't think that was a real good idea because I seen what was coming, and now it's not uncommon when you leave the farm to be at 92 or 3,000.
Okay. Oh, so it encouraged
Them to ship more
jets.
animals per load,
All right.
which makes it harder on you
Yes.
because, I mean, in a lot of ways, we're responsible for them. You know, we got to keep them up. You know, recognizing one that's got trouble before he gets on the trailer, that's pretty key.
I was watching them when you're loading and see if there's any issues with legs or
Legs, sicklies, anything you don't like, you better turn him back and tell him you're not taking that one.
do farmers try to slip a couple of sick ones in there?
As a rule, no. Some, yes.
Okay. What do you do when you encounter ones that are laying down and on the road? I've heard on the radio, guys would say, "Oh, you've got one laying down on the top deck or one laying down."
You know, it really depends if they're pasture laying, just laying there chilling with their head up, and you've got room on the trailer. It doesn't really hurt to leave them laying. You know, you can get them up or not. It takes a lot of energy to stand on that trailer when we're moving. I mean, it takes a lot.
Right.
So naturally, if they can get a break, it's good to let them have one. But now if they're laid flat out, you better get them up. And of course, there's always a time to realize one may only have one more get up in it. So all you can do is leave her down and hope.
Right.
And recognizing that can be pretty important.
What's the average length of haul? Obviously they're it's stressful on the animals. So is it typically like a 1 day haul or an overnight haul, or?
It depends on where you're at. Like coming out of Southwest Missouri, it can be 300 to 600 miles as a rule.
And you need to get that done in one shot?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Of course, I have loaded in Okeechobee, Florida, and unloaded it, you know, in New Mexico.
That's got to be 1,400 mile, doesn't it?
15.
1,500 mile.
Yep. And that's pretty well one shot.
That's a lot of trucking in one shot. So you pretty much just take a nap where you need.
That's one myth I'd like to clear up. A lot of people say they can't sleep because they have live cattle on.
Yep.
You don't want to stop in the middle of the day, you know, in the heat of the day. You don't want to stop right after dark because you want time for that trailer heat to dissipate. That aluminum gets hot.
Got it.
However, sometime after midnight, if you're tired, you better lay your ass down. You know, sleep 2 hours minimum, never no less. The only way I can say it is it's a lot better to get the load there and them all walk off than to gather them up off the side of the road.
Side of the road.
And it ain't if that happens, it's when.
If that happens, what?
It's not if that happens, but when.
When, if you keep stretching it out.
Yep. Yeah, there's no secret to staying awake. There's no, I mean, naturally you want to stay away from sugar, caffeine, you know, anything to make you crash, but
Keep yourself hydrated.
But energy drinks, none of that. When you're tired, you're tired.
Yep.
It's not going to keep you awake.
Yeah, you can't fool the body with anything after a while.
Yep.
Have you personally laid any over?
No, not yet.
How long you been doing this?
This will be my 25th year.
Wow. Okay. Well, I hauled for a neighbor here. Well, basically, I drove a cattle truck once, and he did the loading on it because I'm not familiar with being around animals. I wasn't raised on a farm. Personally, they scare the hell out of me. What's the danger of injury or being crushed when you're loading? How did you learn how to load them?
Well, like I said, I just kind of grew up around it, you know. Watched my dad and his brother. Better off, the more quiet you can be, the better. You'll see when they go to getting agitated, they'll want to circle back and get in the corner. You can pull them out of that corner to a certain extent, But then there's a time to just let them take a 5-minute break, get the pressure off of them, let everybody calm down.
Yep.
Start back again. The main thing is when you start in that trailer, you need to be wide open. You need to be looking. And if one's standing there looking at you, you need to stop. Because the odds of it deciding all I want's out, and if I've got to run over somebody to do it, that's what's going to happen, are pretty good.
Right.
When you shut a door, you want to be careful to keep your head back, keep pressure against it. They kick it a lot. Their aim is deadly with them back feet. But 9 times out of 10, they're not out headhunting. They just want out.
Right.
All they want to do is escape.
Are they more placid on the loading or the unloading? It kind of surprises me that they actually want to walk onto a trailer. Is it?
They can be a little rough to unload sometimes, but you got a lot better odds of getting hurt loading. You know, unloading, you can keep a gate between you and them most of the time, and loading you can too, but sometimes you got to get to that gate first.
Right. Do you know any guys have been injured from loading?
Several. Yeah, me a couple of times. Yeah, I've had some ribs broke. You know, it's part of it. All you can do is get up, dust yourself off, get in the truck, and go. And
maybe, do you ever learn any lessons, or is it kind of stuff you already knew that?
Well, that's how I learned. If they're looking at you,
okay,
be more careful.
That's a precursor to something going bad.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you got to learn to read them.
Do they have bull hauler company jobs? If I decided I wanted to go bull hauling, I remember there's a miller out in Utah, I believe, that is a company outfit. What's the ratio of company jobs to owner operators? I only ever see at the regional stockyards owner operators down there.
I'd say there's probably 25% or more are company guys that work for anywhere from a 5-truck to 15-truck company.
Okay. Do they pay those guys by the mile or percentage of load, or?
Both, depends on the company.
Okay.
And a lot of them, I mean, just to be plain, you've got to watch. They're cutthroat. They'll hire anybody, put them in a truck, and hope for the best. Kind of count on you to take care of them out there, and that's not really my job.
Right, count on the other guys to take care of them. Is it the same in bull hauling as it is in? One thing I noticed switching to flatbed 6 years ago is that the flatbed guys tend to kind of take care of each other and help each other out.
We do.
Okay.
We do.
Regardless of company or who it is.
That don't matter. It's really more about the cattle, you know. I mean, a guy not knowing, that's not necessarily his fault. A guy not caring is his fault. And that'll get him quicker than anything. Yep.
Do you get along with most of the guys that you load with at the Joplin Regional stockyards, or?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody that I don't get along with.
Well, I barely get along with you, but we're both here right now, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty easy. I mean, sometimes I get mad and I might say some things, you know, that can be truth, you know, they might need to hear, but sometimes I'm pretty good at keeping that to myself.
Probably have to.
Yep.
Tell me a little story about the cop that got sprayed.
Well, I'm riding through this quaint little village in Oklahoma, and I get stopped for speeding in this small town.
How fast are we talking speeding?
I guess 26 over. It went from like 60 to nothing pretty
in a blink
immediate.
of an eye.
Of course, this is out on 412. Oh, I can't remember the name of the little town. Anyway, he's mad and
He's
giving me what
upset with the
for?
fact that you're not obeying local laws, ordinances.
You know, I just told him, I said, look, I didn't see the speed limit sign, I'm sorry, whatever. And by this time, we're out in front of the truck. He said, well, walk back here to my car with me. So I walked like way up next to the fence on the road, and he's hollering at me, hey, come here, come here. And about the time I said, you don't really want to be over there. One of them heifers lifted her tail, craps right out the side of the trailer. It hit Tim right here on the shoulder and runs all the way down to his boots. And I'm standing there looking at him, trying not to laugh. And I said, so I guess this means I'm for sure getting a ticket. There's really no way out of this at this point. He concurred. Yep, yep.
He got his book out and commenced writing, but well away from the trailer, I'm sure.
Yep, I got him some wet wipes, and kind of got him cleaned up where he could get in his car.
That was mighty nice of you.
Yep.
I guess his uniform could have done with some dry cleaning after that.
Yep. My wife calls out there and talks to the prosecutor, tells him the story. The guy falls out of his chair laughing and says, well, just pay the ticket and we'll not put it on his record. So it was a win.
That was good. That worked out well.
That was a win.
Do you go through that town very often?
No, I try to avoid it now.
Okay. There's places to be avoided. Here a couple of weeks back.
That's probably my worst day trucking, I'd say. We was in Billings, Montana, the 5th of this month, and my best friend has a heart attack and dies right there in his truck.
Did it happen overnight?
No, it was about noon. Yeah, I went to get him up so we could go load and start back. And wasn't no getting him up.
So you knocked on the door and
Yeah, and I mean it was odd for him not to come, you know.
Was he taking a nap in the morning or?
Yeah, we'd got there pretty late, and he called me about 4:30
In the morning.
In the morning, because the third guy that was out there was getting ready to go load his. You know, there was 2 loads ready and 1 that wasn't, and he asked me if I wanted to go load. I said, no, Rocket, I'm gonna stay here. You know, I'm gonna lay here a while. I said, if you want to load, go ahead. He said, no, I'll wait on you. And about noon, I got up stirring, and I guess it was too late. He was gone.
Right. How'd you get into the truck?
He wasn't locked.
Okay.
Yep.
Call the paramedics.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, it's a pretty bad deal.
So you went and delivered your load that you had
Yep.
on, and
Yep.
then booked a flight back to
Yep,
to
brought
Montana.
his back.
What was his name?
Rocket.
Rocket.
Everybody called him RD. That was Robert Dahmer was his name,
Okay.
from up around Nevada.
Okay. And they had the funeral here last Saturday, was it?
Last Saturday, yeah.
How did the funeral go?
For a funeral, it went well. We had about 20 trucks there.
So you gathered at the stockyards down the road?
No, we left the funeral home and went to the stockyards with him. That's what we actually done.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, it was a pretty neat deal. I think he'd have got a kick out of it.
Did he ride in a hearse or?
Yes.
Okay. Back to page 1. What has trucking benefited in your life?
It's probably got me and my family everything we have. Or at least a part of it. I mean, I couldn't have done it without my wife, that's for sure. But it's, well, it's put my daughter through college. I mean, little home, little piece of ground.
It's paid all the bills for 25 years plus.
Yep. Yeah, it ain't all been peaches and cream, but we've made it one way or another.
Been some low times or lean times in there.
Oh, sure. Sure, about the time you think you've got it, why, the old truck will go down and there you are.
In the same vein, what has trucking detracted in your life?
Oh, I've missed a lot, you know. My oldest boy, he played football, and I pretty well made 95% of those games, where they were home or away.
Yep.
The truck went to a lot of them, but I was there. Missed a lot of birthdays, a lot of Thanksgivings. Left a lot of Christmas afternoons.
A lot of home time lost there.
A lot.
Of your children growing up, do you feel like you spent a lot of time there and not enough time there? How did things turn out? How old's your son and daughter now?
My oldest is 27, and my youngest is 23. But no, I don't think I spent enough time there. Yeah, if I could change anything, that's probably what I'd change.
Is there a way to change it with hauling cattle? Are there regional or local positions?
Not really.
Okay.
Now, I know a lot of guys, that, especially here around Joplin, you know, they just haul into the barn. They do really well. That said, they've got that market sewed up. And, you know, over where I live, it's just poor country anyway. There just ain't really much to do for a living.
Right. You have to travel for the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Similar position to what I'm in here, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I've had pretty good jobs at like John Deere and Caterpillar dealers, but
wrenching.
and I could go back to either one of them, but the politics I can't do.
Is that as a mechanic, wrenching?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How would, if somebody, I can't imagine, but I'm sure there's maybe somebody watching that would want to get into bull hauling. How do you get started in bull hauling, and do you have any tips for new guys entering the industry looking to go into hauling bovine?
You better have a deep seat. Be ready for a ride.
What's a deep seat?
It's not for everybody, and I don't mean to make it sound like we're better than anyone or tougher. We're not. Everybody's got their own limits of what they will and won't do.
Mm-hmm.
This is still very much a whatever it takes to get the job done. You don't back up to a dock and wait to be loaded. You hit a chute and you load yourself.
Right.
You don't necessarily get to stop when you're tired. You don't necessarily get to take the easiest road. I mean, you got to do whatever you do to get them there. You got to put this truck in places you can't imagine, you know, as far as, and not tear it up. You know, that's a key factor, and it's not something for everybody.
And maybe loading in the dark, early dawn hours.
I mean, you've got to be able to roll into a strange sale barn, dig around and find your paperwork, wander around through there and find your pins, gather your cattle, load them, and get going.
So fairly versatile.
You need to know what will and won't ride on your truck. I mean, if it breaks in the middle of the night, there's a point in time you can't do anything, but there's also a point in time that the driver could do something to get there, and he needs to do that.
What do you mean will and won't ride on your truck?
Well, I know guys that, as bad as this sounds, if they've got the most minor wheel seal seep, they're done. You really ain't got no choice but to keep going. You've got to get them off the truck.
Right.
Now, if it's obvious you've got a wheel bearing out, it's time to do something. You know, get it off the road.
But if you can limp it there,
you know,
top it up with oil.
And there's a time to know that my truck ain't going to make it. And you got to sit down and find a place to unload them if you can. A sale barn, a feed lot, I mean, you just got to go to calling places and figure out what you're going to do with them.
Right.
Because if you break down on the side of the road, the alternative is for another truck to back up to you, door to door, while the county's holding traffic, and you run them from one trailer to the next.
To the next, to offload them, to get them there.
I mean, like I said, it's just not a deal for everybody.
Right. A lot of problem solving involved.
You've got to be about a half-assed vet, half mechanic. You've got to have determination and a want to. And it's not something you do to look cool, or in a lot of ways you do it for the cattle. And if you're not in it for the right reasons, you're not going to make it.
Most guys that you know, do they grow up on farms, or their fathers or mothers were cattle haulers, or did they decide to swap equipment from, say, van, reefer, flatbed into what's the typical path of a cattle hauler?
A lot of times it's a farm boy that steps in a truck wanting an easier life. I've always said it's a lot easier to teach a cowboy to drive a truck than to teach a truck driver to be a cowboy.
Agree with that.
I mean, it really is. I've known a few guys that had no idea, and somehow or another land in a spot to do it and make one hell of a hand, but as a rule, no. You know, I ain't saying it can't be done, it's just not very common.
Right.
You know, everybody thinks we're wide open, and we're really not. I mean, how you drive when you're loaded has everything to do with stress on them animals. You know, we get in traffic, we get off the hammer. The more you're on your brakes, the harder it is on them, you know.
Right.
Every time you have to make a hard stop, the odds of breaking a leg or one coming up lame are better. You know, that's pretty easy to do.
That's probably a misconception about bull haulers, is people that don't know, they just think that bull haulers are in the left lane doing 85, 90 mile an hour. I've always viewed it as if there's something, if I'm out in the hammer lane doing 70, 75 and I see a couple of bull haulers coming up behind, well, I'm either stepping on it and getting out of the way, or dropping back and getting out. Either way, I'm getting out of the way.
Most don't do that. I mean, you'd be surprised at the guys who think it's funny when we're coming by to just jump out in front of us. I mean, seriously. You know, they think that we're somehow making more money than them, and really, it takes all of us to make it go around. I like blue jeans, Fruit of the Looms, and groceries, you know. I mean, and right there's your dry vans and reefers.
Right. I like steaks and hamburgers.
There you go. I mean, we're no more important than anybody, but I guess we're hated more than everybody.
Maybe just a lack of knowledge. Once I figured it out in my head that there's live animals on board, and there's a reason why there's a speed aspect to it, and getting on down the road quickly.
It takes a different mindset. You know, as a rule, they're the most compassionate guys you'll ever meet. To load an animal that's given his life so other life can maintain, take him on his last ride, and make sure it's a good ride. You know, ain't no need of getting rough on them.
That's a good way of looking at it.
I mean, it really does. It takes a different individual. And not everybody can do that. I don't like taking them on their last ride. That said, it's part of it.
Has to be done.
Has to be done. I mean, whether it's what we call fats, which were calves that were raised and grown, especially for market, or what we call culls, which are old wore-out mama cows that, you know,
At the end of their lives.
And it's a whole lot better to sell them for a couple $100, you know, let them make dog food out of them than them die on the place and
field.
you have to drag them off, you
Bury
know.
them.
Could be broke dick bulls, I mean, just anything.
What's a broke dick bull?
He breaks his dick, so he's useless at that point.
Okay. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, he misses, and
He misses?
yeah,
You know,
and it breaks, and when it's broke, it's broke. His usefulness is at that point over,
that
and he's
point,
already
yeah.
mad because it's broke.
I imagine you could be pretty mad about that kind of deal.
Yep. Yeah, there's a lot of people that see us, you know, or they'll see all these neat fancy names that some of these guys have brought up, and they put their little videos up of their nice, shiny, clean trucks. And I'm going to tell you, them guys ain't cow hauling. They're fucking around. I mean, they're loading at a sale barn and going to a kill plant. That ain't cow trucking.
Right.
Cow trucking is out in the middle of New Mexico, falling off that mountain on a gravel road, loading out in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, you got to be in Montana the next morning. Or loading in Billings, Montana, and being in Carthage, Missouri in 17 hours.
Some work to do.
You know, it's a little bit of all of it. You know, I don't do just one part of it. I mean, I'd like to have the easy part of it, but it don't always happen. You know, cow trucking is staying with it when vans and reefers are getting paid way more than you are. You watch all these other guys bail out, and there you are taking up the slack. The rate ain't going up. You just stay with it because that's what you do. It's what you know.
Through downturns and markets.
You know, it'll turn around and come back.
Always does.
In 18, when everybody else was crying the blues and starving to death, you know, cow haulers were making money. Now it's the other way around. It'll be our turn again.
Yep. So you've never flicked between platform, van, reefer, cow trucking?
I've pulled a hopper some.
Okay, hauling grain, corn,
Yep,
soybean.
yep, just general commodities.
Is that per by the bushel or by
Yeah, it's always by the bushel or
so paid on weight
yeah,
again?
or by the ton or something like that.
Okay. How long did you haul grain for?
Oh, a couple of years probably.
Okay.
It wasn't a bad deal. Just wasn't cow trucking.
Right. You still own the grain trailer?
No, no.
Okay, so you're solidly cattle hauling now.
Yeah, when I quit this time, I doubt I sell my truck. I'll take it home, but when I quit this time, I'm done.
Yeah, that was the other question I had. When are you going to retire? How old are you now?
48 or 9, I believe.
You only look like you're 25 years old.
You know, some of us are just pretty like that.
I guess you are.
Yeah, I don't know. May work till the day I die. You know, that's the way my dad did. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to retire, but I don't know that it'd suit me.
Probably get bored.
I mean, you can't do this for as long as I have and just walk away from it.
Yeah, probably not after 25 years.
I mean, that's probably my biggest fear is getting out of bed one morning and can't do it no more. What are you gonna do then?
Right. What's your give us an ideal day trucking? What's the best day trucking?
Get out of bed, have a pretty good lunch at the barn, get loaded by 3, head west on an all-night flight burning cow truck lights.
No breakdowns.
No breakdowns.
Nothing in your way.
Everybody stay up, no problem children, you know.
What's the problem, child?
I just one that won't stay up, just weak, got
Yep.
too hot, or, you know, just don't have no want to. Some of them don't have no want to. You know, they just soon lay there and die. You know, dairy crosses are real bad on that. They don't have no try,
Right.
you know. I mean, it ain't a race, but it is pretty sweet when you're the first one. I will say that. I don't guess you ever outgrow that.
Maybe not.
Yep.
Any final thoughts?
Ride you ride, that's about all I got.
That'll work.
Yep.
Should get this thing cleaned up.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go trucking after a while.
Yep. How often you grease drivetrain?
I try to once a week, but
How many miles in a week? Like 3,000?
5.
5.
I mean, on a busy week,
How often oil changes?
10.
10. You don't do no bypass filtration or anything?
No, and I'm not opposed to that, but these old B models are going to make so much soot anyway. It would help for bypass filtration, but I still wouldn't extend my drains.
Just go 10, 15, dump it out and go on.
Yep. I always figure oil and filter is pretty cheap insurance.
Yeah, that's true.